All right, let's take a look at example 3. Trapezoid 2 is a reflection of another trapezoid across one of the given lines. How can you describe trapezoid 2 by using a reflection rule? So as we look at this, what we're trying to figure out is what do we do? What was the rule that caused trapezoid 2 to end up where it was at? So which one is it reflected over trapezoid 1 or trapezoid 3? So as you look at this, you can see that if we were to take and flip trapezoid 1, it would not be in the same orientation. The longer side, which would be down here, would be closer to the x-axis. So this could not be the reflection. This would be a slide or a translation. So that leaves us with 3. 3 would have to be the reflection, and it means it's going to reflect it across the y-axis. So what would be the rule that we'd use? Well, it would be that the reflection across the y-axis of trapezoid 3 will equal trapezoid 2. So that means we reflect it over this line and everything would match up correctly. Now another way to write the y-axis, you could also say that this is going to be where y-axis here, that's where x equals 0. The y-axis and x equals 0 is the same name, same axis. Another name for the x-axis would be where y is equal to 0. So y is equal to 0 here, which means it's the x-axis. So both ways can be used to name this. So make sure you pay close attention to which one you'd be wanting to write it with. All right, so in the diagram R, okay, we have a 5-sided object, A, B, C, D, E, and A prime, B prime, C prime, D prime, and E prime. What are the midpoints of AA, A and A prime, and D prime? Now what I want us to do is I want us to take out the D and D prime, and let's use something else like B and B prime. So we'll take out this and we'll put B and B prime. So let's look at the midpoints of these two here. You only need to take 2 of these to help solve this problem. So let's look here. What are the midpoints of A and A prime? Well, if we look here, what is the point here of A? A is located at 1 on the X, and let's see here, we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 on the Y. And then let's look at point A prime. A prime is going to be at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 1, 2, 3. So 5 and 3. So the midpoint formula is where we take these two and find the midpoint between them. So we'd have 1 plus 5 divided by 2 and 7 plus 3 divided by 2. That's going to give us 6 divided by 2 and 10 divided by 2, which leaves us with 3 and 5. So 3 and 5 is going to be our midpoint. So if we went to mark this, we'd go over here 1, 2, 3, and then go up 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So this is the location of the midpoint. So now let's take a look at midpoint of B. So same thing, we're going to do B and B prime. So B's coordinates are -1. And it's going to go up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And B prime is going to be located at 1, 2, 3, and 1. So now let's find the midpoint of this one. So the midpoint is going to be our -1 plus 3 all over 2 and 5 plus 1 all over 2. So this gives me a +2 over +2. This gives me a 6 over 2, which means it's going to be 1 and 3. So 1 and 1, 2, 3. That's the second point. So what is the equation of the line of reflection? Well, let's take a look at this line. If we were to draw this line here, we could look to see where it crossed the y-axis. And it crossed the y-axis right here at 2, 0, or 0, 2. So this, the way we write our equation here, we go, if this is our point, that's going to be in y equals mx plus b. That's our b. So b is equal to 0 and 2. That's where it's going to cross. The slope here we have to determine would be up 1 over 1, so it's going to be a slope of 1. So the equation here for part B, this was all part A. Part B is going to be, what is the equation of the line? Well, that's going to be y is equal to x plus 2. So that is the equation of this red line here that we just drew. So it says, what rule describes this reflection? Well, we're going to write the rule that says, we're going to say that this is a reflection across the line y equals x plus 2 of A, B, C, D, and E, which results in the mapping onto A prime, B prime, C prime, D prime, and E prime. So that would be our function notation of this, across this line. If you drew a line from here, let's say we draw this line here from A to A prime, it should be perpendicular to this. One way you can check to make sure it's perpendicular is to check its slope. This has a slope of 1 to 1, so this slope right here is going to be down one run. So that's going to be a -1 to a +1, which means that it's going to be perpendicular. All right, so let's move on to example 4. Find the image of A, which is at 1, 2 across two reflections. First across the line 1 and then across line 2. So let's do this now. So let's mark our first point, which is going to be at 1 and then 2. Now the first line is going to be across the line y equals -2. So we're going to come down here, draw our line across y equals -2. So we have to determine how far is it above. Well, it is 1, 2, 3, 4 above, which means it's going to be at 1, 2, 3, 4 below, and on the same x coordinate. So this coordinate is now going to become a +1 and a -6. So that means that this was A. So if A was at 1, 2, and we're going to reflect it across the line y equals 2, then our A prime location is going to be at 1, -6. Now, the next thing we're going to reflect is which is going to give us a double prime. So that means now we're going to reflect it over the line x equals 1. So different colored line here. X equals a -1, which means it's a vertical line that crosses the x-axis at -1. So we are 1, 2 to the right, so we're going to be 1, 2 to the left, which puts us at a -3 and a -6. So our A double prime is going to be at -3 and -6. So you guys try this one. You can do it on the same graph. So pause the video now, check your work, come back, see how you do. All right, so we're starting with the same A point. This time we're going to start by reflecting it over the line x equals 0, which, as you remember, should be the y-axis. So as reflected, we're 1 unit to the right, so that ends us up 1 unit to the left at a -1, +2. Now we're going to reflect it over the line y equals -3. So this is this blue line here, y equals -3. And so that means it is going to be 1, 2, 3, 4 units above. So, or excuse me, 5 units above. So we're going to go down here 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 5 down here, which puts it at a -1 on the x and a -8 on the y. So that's how we get our answer. All right, let's go look at the next one. So now we're going to start at 0, 0, start at the origin. Similar to the last problem, we're going to start at 0, 0, and the first line is going to be y equals 3. So we go to y equals 3, put a line across here. So we're going to go 3 below here, so we're going to have to go 3 above, which puts us at 6, 0. So this is O prime. This is O. Now we're going to do across the x-axis, which is right here, also another horizontal line. So it's 6 units above, that means we're going to go 6 units below, which puts us here at 0, -6, which would be O double prime. So where do we end up at? O double prime, which is going to be at 0 on the x and a -6 on the y. Okay, so you guys try the second part of this, pause the video and come back and check your work when you're done. All right, so let's check to see how we did. We started off at 0. We reflected across the line x equals -2, which is a vertical line. So it's 2 units to the right, so we get 2 units to the left, which puts us -4 and 0. And now we're going to do line 2 is going to be across the y-axis, which means now we're back 4 units to the left, so we got to go 4 units to the right, and that gives us a coordinate of 4, 0. All right, so this concludes our lesson on reflections. If you missed anything, you can always go back and look at each part. Remember, examples 3 and 4 are in part 2, and examples 1 and 2 are in part 1.